Well, g'day, and I thought I'd do this little video, pardon me, for just addressing anxiety, depression, and everything else like that. It's really rather simple, and if you practice what I tell you in this video, you'll find that you'll be able to bring yourself back to a centered place wherein you'll be able to make a new decision about how to proceed forward from this moment, and allow that anxiety, depression, everything else that you feel to simply just fall away. Right now, it's not going to happen immediately. You're going to need to practice this several times. There's a discipline involved in spiritual work or in spiritual application, and there's a kind of a fake it till you make it, necessity that goes along with it. You can't just learn something once and expect to be a master of it. You have to practice it until you get it right. But this one's not particularly difficult. So, firstly, explaining the source of anxiety and depression. All suffering, all anxiety, depression, everything else like that comes from separation from source, separation from God. Look around. Where am I? Where is God? What is God? Is there even a fucking God? Right? Is it then surprising, given that you don't know the meaning of life, that you wouldn't begin to experience some sort of anxiety? Right? Why am I here? What is my purpose? All of this thing. Of course you're going to feel anxious. Where do I fit in? Why don't I fit in? Why doesn't anyone like me? Why don't I seem to get along? All this stuff. Why is the world so crazy? Blah, 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 blah. Why, what? Right? Anxiety is going to be a natural byproduct of attempting not to answer those questions. Right? Whereas this video is going to answer those questions. All right? So very simply, all of that anxiety, stress, and everything else comes from the idea that I'm separate from God. The solution is I'm not separate from God. God is everything, and therefore must include me and must be with me right now as what God is. It must therefore be that I do not know what that is if God is everything. Right. So the spiritual path and the lesson that we're about to do today is one of reconnecting with God, which is my higher self. It's not some guy in the sky waiting to judge me. God is the power of my mind, and in this world, the power of my mind translates to being able to make a decision. Right? And that decision is either to continue to walk away from the light or into the light. Right? To work with my own best, highest interests, or to ignore that again and to have that cycle come around again until finally I can't take any more of this anxiety and I become drastic. So the thing that I want to put to you, and you may have to rewind it and just watch that little bit again, but the thing that I want to put to you is this. You're on a journey of the soul in a place where you are experiencing separation from source, separation from each other, separation from agendas and everything. Right? Everyone and everything is capable of their own individual thing here, and no one has to do what you say, and nobody has to live up to your expectations, and nobody has to give you a damn thing, and you're not entitled to anything. Right? All you can guarantee here is that at some point you're going to be dust and food for the worms. Right? So in the meantime, let's learn of an alternative to that, something wherein at that point of transition when we lay the body down, we'll be able to move on in the journey of the soul instead of having to come back here to do it all again. Right? Which, if you haven't come across ideas of reincarnation before, is reincarnation. Now, in the total sense, reincarnation is not true because the world is not true. There is no world. It's an illusion. You're dreaming. You're in eternity now, dreaming of yourself as being a body and an experience of a world with other bodies in a world, all trying to work themselves out, when in actual fact, if God is spirit, God is everything, all-encompassing forever and ever, amen, without opposite, there can't possibly be a world of form, a world of physical things that change and die and all of that. It's impossible, right? Therefore, this is a dream. And the way you can prove it is a dream is to awaken from it. The way that you can prove this is not reality, and I'm not saying that it doesn't feel real. I mean, look, it feels very real to me, but it's not what our reality is. Okay, our reality is a formless realm or a formless experience of self in its entirety, and this experience is one of being separate from that. Therefore, you are going to experience anxiety. And I hope that keeps it simple. So, Anxiety, it's been many, many years since I've had any anxiety or depression or anything like that. But, and I'm not saying I don't go through periods of being unsettled and periods of being dislodged from my egoic hanging on, and white knuckling and things like that. But I'm now okay with all of that stuff. I recognise that any time that I feel dislodged or upset or uncertain about things, there's actually some kind of a shift happening in me, in my consciousness, because I meditatively and prayerfully participate in a practice of applications of principles that are designed to keep me dislodged from putting down fixed perspectives about myself in a place wherein I am not from here. Does that make sense? All right, so the spiritual path is breaking the ropes, breaking the chains, and forgiving yourself and others for the grievances and the particulars of our experience here, in the false belief that we are bodies, etc., undergoing all these things, which is where patience and tolerance and all those other things come into play for others who are still learning the lesson, who are still coming to the understanding of the truth of the nature of the experience they find themselves in. Right? There are those who are just being born, who are coming in here to the physical experience, who are yet to experience finding themselves in a place that makes no sense, and to undergo the experiences of their ego, which is an emotional based thing, wherein they get angry about that and upset about that and want to take it out on others about that, because they don't remember coming here or making the choice to come here. They don't remember why they're here. They don't remember what they came here for, and they don't know anything. As far as they know, they're completely like you and I, at odds with the world. Right? They're going to experience anxiety too, and we need to be loving, and we need to be more patient and tolerant with them, and not put up with their bullshit, but to represent another way of thinking of ourselves in relationship to life, the universe, and everything, by changing our purpose about the world as one from being where we think we're a victim in the world, to one where we recognise that we are totally responsible for our experience here. We chose to come. We are the dreamer of our dream, and as we accept responsibility for it, one relationship at a time, we can begin to true up to an idea of inner peace, rather than trying to fix or vindicate ourselves, for what we think is going on out there, because nothing is actually going on out there. It's nothing more than ideas symbolically represented that are attempting to fix an identity of false self or physical self in the mind, to ensure that we participate and continue to participate in the separation. Right, that's a bit of a mouthful. And the spiritual path is one of faith, where we say, no, I'm done with that. I don't want any more pain, suffering, and death. I'm just going to choose to be happy, choose to have inner peace, and I'm going to learn to apply forgiveness, patience, tolerance, love, and all those sorts of principles to the affairs of my world, to the affairs of my life, my dream life, to bring about a collapse of the time it takes for me to learn the lessons that each relationship represents to me. Right, which is always going to involve letting go, letting go, letting go. And in every one of those relationships, I'm going to see that I'm jealous, I'm going to see that I have hatred, I'm going to see that I'm petty, I'm going to see that I'm all these things that I don't really want to see about myself, because I think I'm a well-adjusted person and I'm all right, the rest of the world's fucked. What a load of bullshit. All right, but anxiety accompanies us all the way through. Depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, and all these things accompany us all the way through the journey, until we choose to do something about it, until we choose to change our mind about ourselves. Right? Now, let's get to the practice. Anxiety rises up. Right? It's going to appear that I'm anxious in relationship to a relationship with a loved one, a job, or whatever. Those things are symbolic representations or catalysts for trying to reinforce in my mind the idea that I'm separate from everyone and everything, right? So it's not those things that are responsible for my anxiety. It is separation anxiety, separation from source, showing up symbolically as those things, so I can understand the situation I find myself in as a traveller in time and space. Right, we're talking about the mind of God here, or the creative source of the universe, try to get a sense of how different the way I think is to the way you think. Try to get a sense of how different the way the universe actually is to the way you think it is. And I didn't learn this overnight. I did not learn about the power of my thinking overnight. It took me many, many years, but I had to start somewhere, and here is as good a place as any, and now is as good a time as any. So recognize first that I feel anxiety, right? Now, some people feel it in the gut, and some people feel it in the chest. Some people have a horrible deep emptiness inside. Why do I feel so empty? And all sorts of things, right? But it's a thought, all right? It's a thought. I'm upset about this situation, this person, this event. Right? Recognize that that's a symbolic representation of a relationship that I have with myself or God, my higher self, I should say, or God, and that it is an opportunity then not to become fearful about the outcomes or the situations that are being presented, but an opportunity to heal in me a cyclical, repeating kind of pattern, which will carry an emotional signature that you'll recognize. Oh, not this again, right? An opportunity to heal in me something that will begin to repair my sense of separation and bring me into a sense of oneness, and continue to do that as I begin to apply it. Right now, the first thing I need to do is become willing to give my life and my will to God, or to higher self. You don't have to know what that is, and of course you don't know what that is. You don't remember. You don't know why the hell you're here, the meaning of life, or anything. Right? So it's all faith. It's like, all right, I'm going to give my life and will to God, and I don't know what that is, but I'm going to take a leap of faith here, and I'm going to pray. Right? I'm going to ask for help for the healing of my mind that believes it is a body undergoing a death experience or a separation experience. Right? Because the goal that we're attempting to have is to have an experience of enlightenment or awakening, wherein we recognize that we are one with God eternally, as we have always been, as will only ever be in eternity now, and have that awakening experience where, if you've seen The Matrix, where Neo wakes up in the red jelly and looks around and goes, holy shit. There's no red jelly or anything like that, but I can't think of a better analogy. So every morning, a little prayer when you get up. Today I want to have peace. I want to have a peaceful day. I'm going to set my goal as peace. All right. I want to learn to use the relationships that I'm in to foster that peace rather than to react to them in a way that promotes the anxiety and chaos that they seem to represent to me. Right. And I'm going to apply forgiveness to myself for my failings to do that, or I'm going to let myself off the hook for my failings to do that, and others. Right? Forgiveness is not just for me. You have to receive it, you have to be willing to offer it unconditionally. Love is unconditional. If you want love, you have to give love. You can't hold a grievance up in front and say, I've got love and you don't, because it's not going to work that way. If you've burned a bridge, it must be repaired. Right? And that repair happens in here. So the application of that is breathing. Right? I'm going to sit. I've offered my situation to God. This situation is showing me that I think I'm separate from Source. I think I'm separate from God because I find fear, anxiety, and everything in this situation rather than unconditional love. Right? Rather than a lesson. Right? Now, you've already reacted to it badly. You've already reacted to it by getting yourself all stressed out and everything else. So don't try to fool yourself with a concept and, oh, no, that's okay. That's right, I remember now. Right? No. You've found the tip of an iceberg in there. Let it be that for a second. Be totally honest. Be true to yourself. Okay? Hang on, I did react badly to it. I had this emotional reaction. I started to get very anxious because a lot of people, when you begin on a spiritual journey, and I did the same, will use a concept to defend themselves. Don't do that. Right? The concepts merely to pad out the what would you call it? The backdrop for an application of principles. Okay, so breathing. Right, I'm going to stop. See that I'm buying into this. All right, I've already bought into it. If I can see that I am buying into it, I've bought into it. I need a miracle. Right? I need something to happen that is not of my own making, something to happen that is not of my 7 or 8% that I'm using here if you're an Einsteinian or a Freudian philosophical fan. I think it was 8% or 9% or something. I want something to happen that comes from another part of my mind entirely to do a kind of a reset. Right? A little like that, which will snap me out of that thing and take responsibility for that way of thinking. Now, because our thoughts join synapses, right, in our mind, in our brain, these little synapses form memories. Every time I react fearfully or anxiously to a situation, I'm reinforcing my doubts, I'm reinforcing my fears. Right? Every time I step back, ask for help inside through prayer of the heart for the healing of the mind that believes it is separate from God, right? And be willing to just breathe through it and everything. What I'm doing is changing my habitual responses, and I'm allowing those synapses to break apart and to weaken my dependency on those memory-associated stories that I tell myself to maintain the idea that I'm a victim, I'm weak, I can't do this, I can't get through it. Right, can you hear that? So, breathing in through the nose, out through the top of the head. Now that might sound a bit odd. Right? Breathe in through the nose and focus here. Focus on the top of your head, and you will feel, if you are still and if you are focusing here, you will feel like a little draft, imagine a dolphin hole, a blowhole. You'll feel a kind of a draft coming out of the top of the head, and you'll be like, what the fuck is that? I've never noticed that. Maybe you have noticed it before. It's kind of strange, but it's just energy. It's just light doing the work. You know, we're not these physical things. There's more to us than what we see here, smell, touch, and taste. We have a true connection with the universe, a true connection with God, a true connection with all that is, which is God. And as we begin to make experiments and apply certain principles to our thinking, things begin to change, including our awareness of our physical self, which does a lot more than just get old and sick and die. Right? So, and anyone who's ever studied Buddhism will know that then there are many classic examples in Buddhism and indeed in Christian history of saints and ascetics and whatever who have mastered meditation to such a degree that they can stop their heart or not eat or all these sorts of things. And I'm not saying do any of that. I mean, that only verifies the body in my book. But there are things that you are capable of that you don't believe you are capable of now. Right? And you will find these for yourselves, if need be, as you go through the particulars of your own reassociative process, right, through forgiveness and tolerance and patience and all those things of yourself and others, and learn to begin how to make an inner journey wherein you become totally responsible for your thinking, right? So we're asking for help, we're breathing, okay, in through the nose, out through the top of the head. Obviously you're going to breathe in and out of your nose, but focus there. And try to still your mind. Right, this is more meditative, but try to still your mind. Keep your mind focused on purpose. If you hear the kids, yada, 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 if you can hear somebody calling your name, ignore it. Completely block it out. Don't answer. Do not, if a mosquito buzzes, just ignore it. Just sit there. No matter what's going on outside yourself, completely ignore it, unless the house is burning down around you. But ignore it and continue to breathe. And then what you're going to find is, as you refuse to adjust to your pain, right? As you refuse to adjust to the distractions, you will begin to experience an increase in your pain, an increase or a greater awareness, I should say, of your anxiety, a greater awareness. This is a good thing, right? Don't run away. Don't quit. Just stay there and breathe through it, right? You have the courage to do it. There is nothing that is happening to you physically other than in your mind you're telling yourself a story about how you feel. Yet you're still sitting here and everything's perfectly okay. Unless your house is burning down. allow yourself to go to the bottom, if you like, or to embrace as much of that anxiety as you can, as much as possible. Imagine it like going down into a basement when you're a child and the light switches at the bottom and it's dark and you think there's a ghost and whatever. And every step you come closer to the possibility of the fact that you might see a ghost, or closer to the possibility there could be a ghost. Until finally you get down there, you turn the light on, and it's like, oh, there's nothing, it's just the basement, like it always is. Right? So breathe. Allow all that anxiety, all that everything to like gather it all up and try to be the observer of it rather than to buy into it. Oh, it feels terrible. Just to try to be peaceful and calm and just like, yep, there's anxiety. I can feel it. It doesn't feel good, but I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna just go through it right down to the bottom of it all, get it all, and then when you've got as much as you can take, when you think you can't take any more, ask within yourself, take this from me, and just wait. Right? Here, Lord, here's all my anxiety, here's all my fear, here's all my depression, here's all my everything that I can for now. And bear in mind, you're going to be just lip servicing it mostly. You know, like no one's ever honest about this is all I can take. It's like if you were to be completely honest, you go right to the bottom and get the whole lot. But we're not. We tend to just sort of skim off the surface. And but as you progress, you'll learn to have a bit of faith in the process and go deeper and deeper and deeper. So we're allowing ourselves to be emotionally encumbered, let's say, by what we're feeling, but without adjusting to it. And we're breathing and we're offering it up to our higher self, to God, to universal mind, to take it from us by us firstly taking responsibility for it, because we chose to have the physical experience. We chose of our own free will to embark upon the journey of the soul. And now we've decided that was a bad idea, don't want that anymore, and we're asking for change. All right, so heal my mind about my false beliefs about myself and let all that stuff come up. Right, there is nothing wrong with emotions. You don't have to react to them. You can be observer of them and just imagine them as like a little oddly assorted parade. One of the lessons in A Course in Miracles that I really love is watch your thoughts and imagine them as like an oddly assorted parade without any particular concern about each one. Just like, oh, there's one about something terrible happening in another country, and there's one about me losing my job, and there's one about somebody, whatever. You know, without becoming emotionally involved in them. You know, but obviously if you are emotionally involved already, be still, breathe, ask for help. Right? And don't adjust until you feel a sense of peace return. Right? Now, I've done this in a group setting with people coaching this particular application, and it depends. New guys tend to have trouble letting go, and because your mind is still trying to work out what's Dave mean by that, and you've really got to get out of that analytical mind and just allow things to happen. But eventually, what happens is with practice, you'll find that you'll be coughing or vomiting or laughing or crying or whatever, having the emotional release of things, and you won't even know what the hell's going on. It's like, why is this happening? Just stay there and let it happen till it's done. You'll know when it's done. All right? And that's about it. So recognize this is anxiety. Make a decision to give that anxiety to God, and then let's go into it. Right? I'm going to breathe. And I'm going to go down into the basement with that anxiety, and I'm going to stay put as much as I can and allow it to come up. And even though it feels like shit, even though I hate it, even though it's like I'm terrified something's going to happen, and all of that, stay there. Don't adjust to your pain. Get all you can and then offer it up in prayer. Take this and just wait until peace returns. Right? Now, how you do that is how you do that. I can only talk about it. I can only put it forth. I can only express it to you. You have to kind of experiment with it and practice with it and find your own connection with yourself in here in order to begin to affect your own awareness of the healing that will bring you. Right? But it does work. I guarantee you it works. And but it does take discipline. Right? You do have to practice it. Right? That's one thing. And I'll present perhaps another thing in a minute. All right, I love you. Take it easy and watch this again. You might want to watch it 2 or 3 times if you're a frequent visitor to the anxious realm. Take it easy.